Ashford's dark secret nestled in the gentle embrace of Virginia's rolling hills. The town of Ashford was a haven of tranquility, where time seemed to linger like the morning mist. Its tree-lined streets, quaint brick homes, and the soft hum of daily life painted a picture of idyllic simplicity. Neighbors greeted each other by name, shared stories over picket fences, and gathered at the local diner to exchange whispers of gossip and laughter. At the heart of this close-knit community stood St. Mark's Church, a weathered stone edifice with stained glass windows that glowed like jewels under the sun. More than a place of worship, it was the soul of Ashford, a refuge where joys were celebrated, sorrows were soothed, and the bonds of community were forged. Father Daniel McKinnon, the church's steadfast shepherd, had guided Ashford for over 15 years. A man of deep conviction, his presence was a cornerstone of the town's identity. His sermons, delivered with a resonant voice and unwavering certainty, offered comfort and clarity to a congregation that valued tradition above all else. To the residents, Father Daniel was more than a priest, he was a confidant, a moral compass, and a symbol of unshakable faith. His counsel was sought on matters both spiritual and practical, whether it was a marital dispute, a financial worry, or a crisis of conscience. His belief in his own moral infallibility, however, cast a subtle shadow, one that few noticed but would soon loom large over Ashford. Maria Grayson was the town's brightest light. At 32, her infectious smile and boundless kindness made her a beloved figure. She organized Sunday school for the children, delivered meals to the elderly, and always had time for a kind word or a helping hand. Her presence at St. Mark's was a constant, arranging flowers for the altar, lighting candles before services, or lingering after to assist Father Daniel with parish duties. To the townsfolk, Maria embodied the best of Ashford: compassion, generosity, and an unwavering commitment to others. No one could have imagined that within the sacred walls of St. Mark's, a tragedy would unfold, tearing apart the town's serene facade and exposing secrets that had festered in the shadows. The disappearance on a crisp October morning, as the leaves turned shades of amber and crimson, Ashford awoke to an unsettling absence. Maria Grayson was nowhere to be found. She missed Sunday services, an unusual occurrence for someone so devoted. Her absence from the park, where she often walked with neighborhood children, and her unanswered phone deepened the town's unease. Her small cottage on Elm Street, usually warm with the scent of fresh-baked bread, stood silent, its door slightly ajar, as if abandoned in haste. A quiet panic began to ripple through the community, unaccustomed to such disruptions in their predictable lives. By noon, a search party had formed. Neighbors, led by Lisa Carter, Maria's closest friend, combed the town, checking the park, the riverbank, and the quiet trails that wound through the hills. Hope sustained them at first, but as hours passed with no sign of Maria, a creeping dread took hold. The church, a natural gathering point, became the hub of the search. Volunteers gathered in the pews, whispering prayers and exchanging worried glances. Father Daniel, his face etched with concern, offered words of encouragement, urging the town to trust in divine guidance. It was Lisa who made the discovery that would shatter Ashford's peace. Late that afternoon, as she prepared the church for an evening prayer vigil, she ventured into a small parish room rarely used by the congregation. The door was slightly ajar, and a faint, metallic scent hung in the air. Pushing it open, she froze. In the dim light, amidst scattered books and papers, lay Maria's body. Her once vibrant form was lifeless, her face unrecognizable from brutal wounds. A blood-stained cross, a sacred symbol of the church, lay beside her, its presence a chilling mockery of the sanctity of the space. Lisa's scream echoed through the empty halls, a raw, primal sound swallowed by the thick stone walls. Time seemed to stop as she stood paralyzed, unable to process the horror before her. Maria, her friend, her confidant, was gone, murdered in the very place she had found solace. The discovery sent shockwaves through Ashford, transforming the church from a haven into a scene of unimaginable violence. The townsfolk, gathered outside, wept and clung to one another, their shared grief tinged with a growing fear. Who could commit such an act in their quiet corner of the world? The investigation begins. Detective Allison Harper arrived at St. Mark's within the hour, her sharp eyes scanning the scene with a mix of professionalism and unease. A veteran investigator known for her keen intellect, Allison had seen her share of crimes, but the brutality of this murder, set against the backdrop. Her partner, Mark Ridgway, a steady and methodical detective, joined her, his calm demeanor masking the tension that gripped them both. Together, they began to unravel the mystery of Maria's death, knowing it would test not only their skills but the very fabric of Ashford's community. The crime scene was perplexing. Despite the savagery of the attack, there were no signs of a struggle, no overturned furniture, no defensive wounds on Maria's body. Her personal belongings, a purse, a silver bracelet, a well-worn Bible, remained untouched, ruling out robbery. The precision of the scene suggested the killer knew Maria, perhaps someone she trusted enough to let her guard down. The bloodied cross, a heavy brass piece from the altar, hinted at a symbolic intent, as if the murderer sought to send a message through the desecration of a holy object. Allison's first instinct was to question Father Daniel. As the head of St. Mark's, he was the most prominent figure connected to Maria and the church. He greeted the detectives with a somber nod, his hands clasped tightly before him. He claimed to have been praying alone in the church's private chapel the night of the murder, but no one could corroborate his alibi. His calm, almost detached demeanor struck Allison as odd for someone who had known Maria so closely. When pressed about her final days, he described her as troubled but offered no specifics, his answers vague and carefully measured. Mark, meanwhile, interviewed Lisa Carter, who was still reeling from the discovery. Her eyes red from crying, she recounted Maria's recent behavior, how she had grown withdrawn, often lost in thought, and had started visiting the church late at night, alone. She seemed scared, Lisa admitted, her voice trembling. Of a sacred space, was unlike anything she had encountered. Like she was carrying something heavy, but she wouldn't tell me what. Lisa's words planted a seed of suspicion. Had Maria uncovered something that made her a target? As the investigation deepened, Allison and Mark turned their attention to the church itself. St. Mark's was more than a building, it was a repository of Ashford's history, its walls steeped in the prayers and secrets of generations. Among the parish records, Allison found Maria's diary, tucked away in a drawer in the church office. Its pages revealed a woman grappling with doubt and fear. Entries described a man in the dark who approached her in the church, urging her to keep silent about something she had discovered. The final entry, dated the day before her death, read, "I can't stay quiet anymore. I have to tell someone, but I'm afraid of what he'll do." The diary pointed to Father Daniel as the likely figure behind Maria's fears, but direct evidence was scarce. Allison noted discrepancies in the church's financial records, large unexplained transfers to an account in Father Daniel's name. The money, traced to a property deal in another state, suggested a hidden life the priest had kept from his flock. Mark uncovered another clue, a hospital record from years earlier, revealing that Father Daniel had a son born out of wedlock, a secret buried under layers of discretion. Could Maria have stumbled upon this truth, threatening to expose the priest's carefully guarded past? Shadows of suspicion as word of the investigation spread, Ashford's tranquility gave way to a fog of mistrust. The church, once a symbol of unity, became a lightning rod for suspicion. Whispers filled the diner and the market square, rumors of Father Daniel's involvement, of Maria's secret knowledge, of dark dealings hidden behind the church's holy facade. Some defended the priest, unable to reconcile his role as their spiritual leader with such a heinous crime. Others, shaken by the brutality of Maria's death, began to question everything they had believed about their town and its guardians. Amelia Ross, the church's secretary and Father Daniel's closest confidant, found herself caught in the crossfire. A quiet woman in her 50s, Amelia had worked alongside the priest for years, managing the parish's daily affairs. She insisted on his innocence, but her loyalty wavered under Allison's questioning. She admitted that Maria had been asking pointed questions about the church's finances, questions that made Father Daniel visibly uncomfortable. Amelia also recalled seeing a stranger near the church the evening of the murder, a man in dark clothing who moved with purpose, avoiding attention. She hadn't thought much of it at the time, but now the memory gnawed at her. Allison and Mark followed this lead, scouring surveillance footage from the church's perimeter. A grainy video captured the stranger meeting Father Daniel behind the church hours before Maria's death. Their conversation appeared heated, the priest's gestures sharp and urgent. Though the footage lacked sound, it confirmed a connection that Father Daniel had not disclosed. Digging deeper, Mark traced the financial transactions to a private detective named Stephen Fletcher, a man with a reputation for handling unsavory tasks for those who could pay. The pieces began to fall into place. Had Father Daniel hired Fletcher to silence Maria, fearing her knowledge of his secrets? The detectives tracked Fletcher to a rundown motel on the outskirts of a neighboring town. A tense confrontation ensued, with Fletcher attempting to flee before being apprehended. Under pressure, he confessed. Father Daniel had hired him to intimidate Maria, hoping to keep her from revealing his illegitimate child and the illicit funds he had siphoned from the church. But the plan went awry. Maria, sensing danger, tried to escape, and Fletcher, in a moment of panic, killed her. The bloodied cross, he claimed, was an impulsive act, a twisted attempt to frame the murder as a ritualistic act. The fall of a pillar. Father Daniel's arrest was a quiet affair, conducted under the cover of dawn to avoid a spectacle. He offered no resistance, his face a mask of resignation as he was led from the rectory in handcuffs. The news spread like wildfire, igniting a storm of emotions in Ashford. For some, it was disbelief, a refusal to accept that their trusted priest could be capable of such betrayal. For others, it was a grim vindication, a confirmation of the doubts that had begun to fester. The church, once a place of light, stood empty, its doors locked, its spirit broken. The trial was a grueling ordeal, stretching over weeks as prosecutors laid out a damning case. Fletcher's testimony, coupled with financial records and Maria's diary, painted a picture of a man desperate to protect his reputation at any cost. Father Daniel remained stoic, speaking only once to accept his fate, his voice devoid of remorse. The jury's verdict was unanimous, guilty on all charges, with a sentence of life imprisonment without parole. The gavel's echo marked the end of an era for Ashford, a town forever changed by the revelation of its darkest secret. Aftermath and healing. In the wake of the trial, Ashford struggled to find its footing. St. Mark's Church, once the heart of the community, became a relic, its pews gathering dust as parishioners sought solace elsewhere. Lisa Carter, haunted by her friend's death and her own misplaced trust in Father Daniel, left Ashford, seeking a fresh start far from the memories that lingered in every corner. Amelia Ross remained, but her role in the church's downfall made her a pariah, her quiet life now marked by solitude. John Miller, the local journalist who had chronicled the case, published a series of articles that gained attention beyond Ashford's borders. His words challenged readers to examine their own blind spots, questioning how easily faith could obscure truth. For Alison and Mark, the case was a sobering lesson in the complexity of human nature. They continued their work, but with a newfound caution, aware that evil could hide behind even the most righteous facades. Ashford began to heal, slowly and painfully. The townsfolk, once bound by shared faith, learned to rebuild trust through small acts of kindness and open dialogue. New leaders emerged, less dogmatic but equally committed to the community's well-being. The tragedy of Maria Grayson and the fall of Father Daniel became a cautionary tale, a reminder that truth, no matter how bitter, must be faced head-on. The hills of Ashford still rolled gently under the Virginia sky, but the town was no longer the same. It had confronted its shadows, emerging scarred but wiser, determined to forge a future where trust was earned, not assumed, and where the light of truth could pierce even the deepest darkness.